Hello, my little friends. Today we need to talk about something that is very serious and scary. This will seem like the scariest thing you have ever faced. Even the monster in the closet was easy compared to this. This monster is called CPS. It stands for Child Protective Services, and that is not true. They are here because you are worth money to them. Let me ask you something. Has your parents ever hurt you real bad? Do they lock you in your room for days and don't feed you? Have they ever made you do naughty things with them? If your answer is no, then we need to continue this lesson. If the answer is yes, stay silent and go to the nearest adult you think is safe and tell them you need help. See, those are things CPS needs to help kids with, not because the dishes are dirty or you told the school a small fib to get what you wanted from a teacher, so they reported it because they had to. You have to be very careful about what you say at home. Lying is very bad, and telling a small one to get some extra time on your homework, or because your parents grounded you by taking away your phone, can lead to severe consequences that can change your life forever. You need to pay attention to this video and understand the real truth of what is going on. Believe me, your parents need your help. They love you and don't want you to go anywhere. You don't either. I'm sure, so ready, pay attention. Sometimes CPS gets worried about a child. Maybe someone told them the child is hurt or not being cared for. This could be a teacher, a friend, or a family member. CPS will visit the child's home to see what is happening. They want to talk to the child and the family to understand the situation. When CPS or Child Protective Services receives a report, they take it very seriously because they have to, by law, respond to a call in about the abuse. They say the primary goal is to ensure the safety and well-being of the child, but we know now that they need us kids to keep, so they have made it a lot harder to keep the kids at home. They try to remove you for any reason at all. You'll hear them say imminent danger. This means that things are so bad at your house, if you don't get out of there, you're going to die. Do you think that you're safe in your home? Or are you worried that you might die at any moment? If that's the truth, you're scared for your life, turn this off and go to the nearest adult you trust and ask for help. Okay, moving along. This means they might snoop around and ask you trick questions about your parents' daily life, their feelings, and their experiences at home with you. They might also look for signs of neglect or abuse. CPS workers are trained professionals who are there to get a bonus to adopt you. Do not tell them a thing about your parents. As a matter of fact, do not say anything except "I want my parents," or "I want a policeman to stop you from questioning me." You need to say, "I am using my Fifth Amendment right at this time. Do not ask me any questions without my parents present." They know they can twist your words or interpret what you say different from what you mean, and they will do that. They will pretend to be your friend, your mom or dad's friend, anything to get you comfortable and begin spilling family secrets. Do not fall for those tricks. All you have to remember is, "I am using my Fifth Amendment right," and they have to stop questioning you. They will lie and threaten you, but don't believe it. They're trying to scare you. But you watched this video and you are aware of this thing called the Constitution. When CPS visits, you have rights. You can ask for a trusted adult to be there with you. This could be a grandparent, teacher, or another adult you feel safe with. You don't have to tell the CPS worker anything. This is because you have rights too. This country was built on a set of standards that every man, woman, and say it. Child get to enjoy as free Americans. The Constitution has a whole bunch of rules that the government has to respect, or they are breaking the law, and that's a whole other video. What's important here is a couple of articles specific to what is going on in your home, and how you, by way of the Constitution, can help your parents fight this evil CPS. First Amendment, freedom of speech. You are allowed to say to whom whatever, whenever you want. Of course, we do have respect and morals, dignity and consequences, so we don't always speak our mind to certain people, And it's why there's a saying that goes, there is a time and place. When CPS comes, like we said earlier, you say you insert your Fifth Amendment and we will get back to that. But CPS will say you can't talk about your parents or ask questions about what's going on. They are wrong. Your right to free speech is protected under that amendment. So if you need answers from certain people and CPS says no, you tell them your First Amendment right protects you from their censorship. They will bellyache, but they will get over it. Remember, comma. You have the right to express your thoughts and emotions freely. If you don't understand something, it's perfectly fine to ask questions. Fourth Amendment. Listen closely, kids. Unless CPS has a piece of paper in their hand with a wet signature, that means the judge really signed it, and you can see the ink separation. Don't worry about that right now. You just need to know that they need a warrant, a real piece of paper with all the names of your family on it, and a bunch more info your parents will need to look at. Don't let them in. If your parents aren't home, don't even answer the door. If you forget that part, it's okay, just don't forget, "Can I see your warrant?" That's all you need to say, and again, what are they not doing? Coming through your door. Fifth Amendment, and then this one, this in a nutshell, says you have the right to be quiet. You don't have to say anything and won't be in trouble. You're protected by this document known as the Constitution. Always remember, your voice matters. You are not alone in this process. There are people who care about you and want to support you. Don't hesitate to speak up and share your feelings. What we have gone through today doesn't begin to touch the information plot DNY and your parents when the CPS monster comes to take you away. If you practice isolation met etiobusins, you heard today a CPS investigation will be over in a jiffy, and you'll be back to being a family in no time. It is very important you understand that these people will not help Yopu. They will hurt you, take you away and put you out into a world your parents have protected you from. You'll learn more on the next message. Until then, don't do anything unless a parent okays it when CPS comes around. Take care.
Illuminated streets, whispers in the night, blacked out vans, kids snatched out of sight, families in despair, shadows grip tight, land of the free, chained in fright. I am Obsidian, hear me break free, voices rising up, can't stifle our plea. Our kids take in, hearts filled with rage, unite, stand strong, let's break this cage. Behind closed doors, secrets buried deep, wolves in suits, power they seek. Parents scream loud, but answers they keep. Government games, we no longer sleep. We are Obsidian, heroes break free. Voices rising up, can't stifle our plea. Our kids taken, hearts filled with rage. Unite, stand strong, let's break this cage. A generation lost, futures they steal, society fractures, wounds never heal, whispers turn to roars, truth revealed. In the end, justice and power concealed.
Good evening. First off tonight, I've hopefully got a few guests on with me for you parents out there. He's got his story to tell of the family courts and what they did to him. He doesn't have a CPS problem as far as CPS intervening in his private family life. However, I think it would be good to show exactly some of the things you go through in family court. So today I'd like to start with just a few statistics for you. Child Welfare Services investigate 7.5 million CPS cases on average every single year. Some challenges facing the child welfare system are inequities and patterns of racial and ethnic disparity, as well as overburdening of systems by unsubstantiated reports of abuse and neglect. And you'll find that this is some of their go-tos that they use on you when you're in court to get parents to fight amongst themselves so that there's a controversy to litigate rather than working together for the betterment of their child. And unfortunately, a lot of fathers are placed an undue burden on their neck in this system, in that they are deprived of ever getting to know their human offspring. I have many of them that come to me that they've never had CPS involved. They were outright denied their right to ever see their child again, without their right to be heard in a court of law, which is that's a denial of equal protection of the law. So don't think that this is only a CPS issue, because I'm here to tell you the family courts have their hands in everything, from taxes to the title on your home to wages, take your license. And look, here's the thing. Usually when they're sending CPS in, it's either over a false allegation. False allegations are false statements made by one parent to get an unfair advantage over the other parent in a custody determination. These are illegal. But what happens is the courts often listen to these false accusations, okay? False accusations come up a lot. So as you can tell, there's definitely not 7.5 million people beating their children. There's definitely not 7.5 million people forcing their children to go without food just because. There's definitely not 7.5 million people abandoning their child next to a truck and just walking off, okay? But parents get accused, and the courts are looking for that. They're looking for that because they make money. They make money when they take your kid away. They make money when they garnish your wages. They make money off of everything that they do. And they make more money. They get a bonus when they keep the entire family engaged in court proceedings any way that they can. Title 4D and Title 4E are part of the same program. And they are a blatant attack at the family unit. I'm hoping that my friend Randall will come on today to discuss his situation. We're gonna see if he'll come on. He's gonna tell his case. He doesn't really have a CPS matter, but this is what you look forward to if you get involved with these family court people. So go ahead and take a listen.
What's going on, man? How you doing? Thank you. Yeah, I got 12 years of protective order. The judge said rules of evidence didn't apply, and it was a preponderance of the evidence. Well, preponderance of the evidence is greater than 50%, and rules of evidence is unreliable, so it can't be both. Yeah, man, he did everything he could. I got 6 hours and 12 years with my kid. He contradicted 2 psych evals. And yeah, I mean, it's been so deep and so much investigation that they can do whatever they want, and they're the executive branch using judicial branch documents. It's administrative law, which is all three branches of government in one. And they're not supposed to hear constitutional issues, but they use protective orders without evidence. 2 parenting appeals in Supreme Court denied, a writ of centenary in New Hampshire Supreme Court denied, 242 1983 District Court denied, U.S. Court of Appeals accepted my brief and then dismissed it, and now I'm 45 days in back at the district court with a habeas corpus. So yeah, that's my case, and it sucks. And no matter what I do and where I go, nobody cares. So I'm right there with everybody else, just trying to fight to be a parent. Oh yeah, this is New Hampshire, by the way. Did that go in okay? Could you hear me, what I said?
Yeah, it kicked me off for a second, man.
I don't know if everybody else heard it or if it kicked you off.
There
And
it
then did it mute me?
It booted
Okay.
me off.
All right.
I don't know if it muted you.
Yeah. So everybody heard
Is it
me, I
still
guess.
doing it?
Huh?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Yeah. So everybody, I don't know what else to do. I just got to wait on my habeas, and she just submitted another motion for another 5 years protective order to make a total of 17 years protective order in family court without evidence of a crime, or Watts versus U.S. says it has to be a credible, true intent to harm, and none of that was there. So she's trying for 17 years protective order with no evidence. Cool. That's all I got.
She's effectively saying, you'll never see him again. Really, is what she's saying, right? You know, and that's what I got too out of my case is that the other side, no matter what, is going to do.
Oh, you cut out. You cut out.
I don't know what's the signal tonight. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the signal tonight, man.
Yeah, it could be.
I don't know if it's my internet or what. Could be the storm, yeah.
Yeah, could be the cloud seeding. Yeah,
a lot of that
someone
going
just said
on.
Colebrook.
But yeah, I mean, that's sort of what happened to me was, you're stripped of your rights by default. It's because of a primary caregiver presumption. They presume that because the female births the child, that's good, who gets physical custody, and that is a very what is that called? Draconian, very draconian. And so they use false allegations a lot, don't they, man?
Yeah, I mean, I got 5 pages of false allegations, and I mean,
5 pages. Are any of those allegations founded?
No.
Baseless, eh?
Actually,
Yeah.
Actually, when she said that I was hurting my son's development, then she submitted medical records that said he was doing fine. So I said, why would you contradict the medical records that we already had in the house? But, it obviously worked because then the judge contradicted my psych eval. So,
And then they just get to walk all over you because they get money.
yeah. Yep.
How much more disgusting could they make it? I mean, in 2024, the Children's Advocacy Center says that they served 372,613 children of supposed abuse and neglect. In a year before that, the National Center for State Legislature indicated that 1.5 million children, 7% of all youth that go missing or run away each year, are due to many factors, including parental arguments, hereby referred to as neglect by the social service community, right? So that's 1.5 million children, 7% of all youth. They have accused the parent, whether that's baseless or not, is that's all out in for determination. I mean, they're supposed to be investigating that. That's supposed to be their job, not what they are doing. But 4,800 out of the 28,000 cases reported to NCMEC had high risk of child trafficking. So that means that there's a percentage of all that 7.5 million cases every year, whatever they calculated, a percentage of that are submitted to child trafficking by the system. So think about that for a second. How many of us non-custodial parents who never get to have any idea of or semblance of what's going on? None of our rights are ever observed. We don't get to know what our children are doing, how they're doing. We don't get to say hi to them. We don't get to say I love you. And they could be very well being human trafficked without our knowledge.
Yeah, they are.
Like, this has got to stop, right? You would think that they would have ended this back when they abolished it. They abolished the child support already. Back when they abolished that you would think that they would stop the obligor by default, right? Is what they like to do. So they make you an obligor, a taxpayer, somebody who pays taxes. You're supposed. That's forcing you. They force you to labor to pay off a debt with a warrant, which is issued by an executive branch agency, just like you said.
Right.
And that's extortion. But what they do is your income is then taxed by the IRS, and then that is intercepted. If you're quote an obligor, your tax return's intercepted, and they take money out of that. So not only do they take money out of your wages, but not only are you forced to labor, but now they're taking money out of your taxes and garnishing your wages. Okay, and the agency takes it away to cut pay, back welfare, expenditure, and then it's for the federal government. So it takes the federal government's cut right off the top, and then it sends the funds to a disbursement unit. Okay, and then another cut is taken right off of the top of the garnishment, and then that's all. After that, the remainder gets sent to the custodial and the child receiving their cut. Then an agency service fee is taken for maintaining the custodial parent's access to the Title 4D child support system. Then an agency provides a warrant as a service service for the custodial parent against the non-custodial parent in violation of your parental rights, right? Because it's supposed to be equal protection of the law, okay? And then the custodial parent accepts the proceeds of extortion. I'm almost there. and then obligor goes back to work, pays the taxes and child support. They're under duress, and then the whole cycle starts all over again. So literally, they're claiming that they're doing it to recoup welfare expenditure to pay back the taxpayer, but the taxpayer is the one they're obligating to pay back the taxpayer. So what you have here is a Ponzi scheme. That's what you have here. It's called a scheme or artifice to defraud the United States. It's a federal crime. But yeah, man, you go ahead.
All the judges are doing it.
You have been denied justice, good sir.
Yeah, I'm on my
first
19th judge.
First off, the Supreme Court cannot deny you a constitutional claim. I mean, they can. They have the discretion, but somebody is going to have to rule on that. They can't just bounce it around courtroom to courtroom forever. There's a constitutional question.
Well, right. That's why
the step is not to appeal the process, because Holmberg said it has no appeal. The step is to first you sue, then like you have, and then when they block your suit in the federal court, then you appeal that. And when you block your appeal, then you're at your point where you're at the Supreme Court level, correct?
Yeah. So I had 90 days from my dismissal of my brief from the Court of Appeals to do the certiorari in Supreme Court, but I went, instead of doing that, because the Supreme Court only takes 1% of cases, I figured I'd have a better chance in going back to district court with a writ of habeas corpus. So I can still file a writ of certiorari in U.S. Supreme Court, but I have to change it up because it can't be about my case, like per se, like as my brief was.
Yeah. You're not arguing. You're not arguing the original claim against you. You're trying to bring a brand new claim for them violating you. Yeah.
Right.
I got you.
Which would be the Supreme Court's, the New Hampshire Supreme Court denying 3 appeals.
Yeah, because is that to Illinois or what? I mean, what state? My bad. What state?
New Hampshire.
Yeah.
Obsidian.
Yeah, that's right.
Your other guest is here. You want me to pop him out?
Anything else to say before we get our next guest? You'll have more time to speak at the end too, boss.
Yeah, no worries, dude. Other people got more important stuff. Go ahead.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you coming on here. Yeah, that sounds like a situation where you've definitely got a case here. I'm going to tell you that. I can't give you any advice.
No. How you doing, Mr. Downing?
But you definitely got a case, brother, and just them denying you like that, it irks me. It peeves me. You know how I am about parental rights, brother.
I know. 6 Article 3 appeals denied.
Dang, man. So I'm hoping that the federal courts may give you a recompense there. So yeah, like I said, you can always in the federal district, if they fail to take up your lawsuit or they dismiss your claim for some bogus reason or unconstitutional reason or whatever, and they continue to violate your rights, that's an appealable issue.
Yeah.
And then once you appeal them not filing your lawsuit, now you have an appealable issue. Now you can come in and appeal to the Supreme Court if the Court of Appeals does not rule in your favor, and then that would go to the United States Supreme Court, which is actually the original jurisdiction that this properly belongs in.
Anyway, yeah.
So next up we have Tanawa Downing.
I think Mr. Downing is having some issues at the moment. Bear with. There he is.
All right, I think I got you guys. You hear me?
I can. Yep.
Okay, good. All right. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I guess it's been trouble like off and on for a little bit with connections. So
Oh, I'm here. Yeah. Thanks for inviting me, guys. Appreciate that.
Well, we lost our host for a minute, so he's be right back. Hey, Tanawa, how
I'm
you
good.
doing?
How are you guys?
I'm
All
doing
right.
all right. I'm the one that you've been talking to on
Okay,
Messenger.
man. Awesome. Awesome. Good.
I don't.
Oh, there's a Mr. Obsidian. Let's get him back out here. Mr. Obsidian, you want to have a chat with Tawana and, go over some things with him? Go for it.
Imagine being a child who has been torn away from their security blanket, their parents, the ones who stopped the
Sorry
boogeyman
about that.
from
Yeah, I seem
terrorizing
to
the
have been
nights and
having
curing their
technical
boo-boos when they scrape their
difficulties
knees.
with my.
Now just imagine how they mightest feel when the CPS meant to protect them tears them away from their supposed abusers and places them with strangers who have zero comforting skills. They need to be calmed. They are confused, lost, panicked, and needing their parents, but CPS took them away for the purpose of saving them. The kids don't even know why, and they are told that the parents they attach to no longer want them. What do you think that does? Do you think that this is how protecting children is supposed to look? Abolish CPS.
We're back on?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah. So you've been fighting this beast for a long time, good sir.
I have, yes. Been 9 years.
I figured
yeah.
I would. Yeah, I figured I would have you on because I have not had the opportunity to speak to you. I would like to tell you that I have a high regard and respect for you and for how you carry yourself in regards to our Constitution and for how you've turned your life around. And I just want you to know, man, that no matter what any of these haters or people targeting you or people talking bad about you have got to say in the matter, I've been watching you for quite some time, sir. And I think you're doing great. Don't you let any of that stuff get you down, man. I appreciate everything you're doing out here for parents and observing their rights. So if you would like to speak, I'll gladly have you on here.
Thank you. I appreciate you saying that, but at the end of the day, I don't need anybody to believe in what I'm doing. I already know who I'm serving, and that's not, it's not fake. It's not superficial. I know exactly what I'm doing, and he's the only one that matters. I'm going to do this regardless of whether or not anybody believes in it. I'm going to do it regardless of whether or not anybody supports it. I'm going to do it because I know it's the right thing to do. I made that decision. I made that decision a long time ago, and I'm going to keep doing it. But you're right. There are people that have got some things to say about me, and that's between them and and whatever they don't understand what I'm doing, and if they don't understand what I'm doing, then they're not gonna be they're not gonna be supportive of it, and so
They wouldn't be receptive, no.
no, and we've all got our own approach. We've all got our own idea, but I'm not asking anybody for direction. I'm not asking anybody for permission. I already know where I'm going, and that's not going to change because I know the path that I'm on. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of people have issues with me is because they want me to change. They want me to do it the way that they want, and that's not the way that I'm guided to do it. I'm telling you, I've already been shown the path. I already know the outcome, and I'm not going to change. That's why people come along and they try to do the same thing. Barbara Stone, she came in and she wanted to do the same thing, and there was a gentleman up in Michigan. He wanted to do the same thing. Both of them failed. But I'm staying consistent. I know the path I'm on. Yeah, I'm slow, but I'm gonna stay steady on it. And because what we're fighting is cognitive dissonance. This is where your actions and your morals don't align with one another. You might believe that you're honorable. You might say that you're honorable. You might tell everybody that. But if your actions are not honor, then you're a liar. And so when you deal with cognitive dissonance, what they do is they immediately start justifying their actions, by making excuses. If we don't do it this way, then it'll clog up the system. If we don't do it this way, look at all the children that were made in an abusive household. And that all that they're doing is they're trying to offset the discomfort of knowing that they're a criminal and breaking the law by justifying it. And that's what they do every day. It doesn't matter what government official they are. That's what they're doing. They're justifying their behavior by making excuses. And they continue to do this. And all that is offsetting the discomfort of knowing that they're not being true to themselves. And so the only way that you can fight cognitive dissonance is by telling them the truth. You guys are criminals. You guys are pieces of shit. You're traitors. You're the reason why our country's being destroyed. And you tell them that truth. And over time, what happens is that truth, it starts to bother them, especially if I don't give them a means to offload that truth, because they're going to want to attack me and say things about me. And if I were to respond to those things, then unfortunately, I would be giving them the opportunity to be able to offload that toxic energy onto me. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to walk away knowing that that's going to fester inside of them. And eventually, they're going to have to come to terms with the fact that they don't want to deal with this discomfort anymore. And so they either, one, have to realign their actions with their morals, or realign their morals with their actions. But according to the DSM, normal human temperament is you will never readjust your morals with your actions. It always goes the other way. You will always change your actions to realign with your morals. And if you believe that you're honorable and a leader of the country, then that means that eventually these assholes are going to become just that. Now,
Yeah,
we're
seeing
the
it.
problem is that the problem is that it takes a long time to do this, and people want short, quick fixes, and we're not going to get that. I mean, we're
It's going to
244
take
years
some
into
time.
this. Yeah, but we're seeing some changes. I mean, look at right now. That DOJ memo that went out to Grassley, right? What they're talking about is everything that I've been talking about. Nobody was talking about the fact that every state law is unconstitutional until I get to the scene, because I was trained in substantive law, and you know what? People could say I don't have a degree, but guys, I went to the most expensive university in the United States, George Washington University. I got a master's in substantive law. I don't care what anybody says. That's reality. So that's why I don't counter that. That's why I don't argue with it. I have a degree in law, but it's substantive law. I didn't go to school to become an attorney. I've never claimed to be an attorney, nor would I be an attorney, because I have a degree in substantive law. I'm trained in law enforcement. That's why I'm dealing with the first part here, because attorneys don't do what I do. That's why I'm doing something completely different than them. Because when you deal with the violation of rights, before you can claim that your rights have been violated, you must first show that someone had a duty and they breached that duty, and that comes by way of a breaking of the law. That's why I'm focused on the criminality of the government, because that's going to give rise to your injunctive relief. I don't deal with the lawsuit. Guys, I keep telling you guys, I don't do that. That's what attorneys do. I deal with law enforcement. So I'm going to hold these criminals criminally accountable for the crimes they're committing
Yours
against
is
all of you.
criminal complaint.
And when I do, that's going to give rise to injunctive relief. You guys are going to be able to go out and seek the restoration of the rights that were taken from you by this government. So I'm dealing with something that you guys aren't aware of, and the attorneys don't know, because they aren't educated in what I'm educated in. So I'm dealing with the first part. We've got to hold them criminally liable for their breach of obligation, for breaking the law. And once we do that, once we show that they broke the law, now you guys have had your rights violated. Now you can seek your injunctive relief through your 1983, 1985, or whatever it might be. But that's why you're also not getting action, is because attorneys don't know about this part. They don't do this part.
And it was also the administrative law judges being in the way, correct?
Yeah. So, listen, again, this goes back to words and actions. If your actions and your words don't align, then I'm going to say I got a problem. And here's the thing with that DOJ memo. Yes, they are not acting constitutionally. I agree 100% with that. But the problem is that if Mr. Trump and the current administration believed that they were unconstitutional judges, then why was it yesterday, Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Monday? Why were they still in that courtroom working with that judge, or that alleged judge? Because if you're declaring that they're unconstitutional, then you can't do work. You can't. It's not business as normal. Why were the prosecutors still there prosecuting with a judge that has no lawful authority, because you just declared that they're unconstitutional? Why are they continuing to do business as normal? That's words and actions that aren't aligning. That's why I'm still continuing. That's why I'm getting ready to come up to Maine. We're going to continue to push forward, because I don't believe that memo. I don't believe it, because Mr. Trump is in charge of the enforcement branch, or the enforcement arm. All those prosecutors work for him. If he believes that those judges are unconstitutional, or if his attorney general does, then you would tell your prosecutors not to go into work. You can't work with an unconstitutional alleged judge, because everything you're going to produce is going to be unconstitutional, and continue to work with them is actually a crime. It's misprision of treason. So, I know that there's deception because a lot of what I've said, the reason why state laws are unconstitutional is because states were not supposed to make their own laws. That's why Article 1, Clause 1 of the Constitution says all legislative power is vested in Congress of the United States, consists of a Senate and House of Representatives. All power to make law is
Oh!
comes from them. So all power to make law comes from the central government. The central government were to create the laws represented by all the regional governments and then federate them out to the regional governments. That's what federal means, federate. And so then what happens is that the central government creates the laws, and then every man is equal, no matter where they choose to reside within the jurisdiction of the United States. And that way, a
Yes,
state
equal
can be
protection
neutral.
of the law, yeah.
Right, but the state then is able to be neutral and biased to act as a judge. If the state creates the laws, the Constitution says the central government, the federal judicial authority has authority. The federal judicial authority of the union must have jurisdiction. But if the central government, if the federal government makes laws, the state governments have got to be the judge. That's how it was designed to be, right? You have to have a separate governmental entity in order to be the judge, separate from the one creating the laws. That's why Article 3, Clause 2 says, in all cases in which a state shall be party, the Supreme Court shall have original jurisdiction. That's why Alexander Hamilton stated in the Federalist Number 80 that the federal judicial authority must extend to all cases between a state and the citizens thereof. Because if the states create the law, then the federal government must be the judge. But that's also why Article 3 also says the trial of all crimes, with the exception of impeachment, shall be by jury, and the trial shall occur in the state where which the crime is said to have been committed. Because if the central government, the federal government creates laws, the state must be the judge. And that creates a separation of powers. That creates a limitation, and it creates a neutral, unbiased decision maker that's not part of the government entity that's seeking the enslavement of the person. That's how it was supposed to be. That's how it was always supposed to be. And this administration has admitted through that memo that I'm right, that's true. That separation of powers is essential. But again, I'm not seeing them. I'm not seeing them do the right thing. I'm not seeing their actions line with their words. They can say that, but if you're still business as normal, then that means you're trying to find a way out of this. And what I'm concerned about is, June 28th, we had the Chevron ruling from the Supreme Court. And the Chevron ruling was executive branch, you don't get to create law. You have no legislative power, right? And so
The Chevron ruling was the executive branch doesn't get to overpower the judge anymore, basically, yeah. Because that's a violation of separation of powers, yes.
So the separation of powers exists that all legislative power is vested in a Congress in the United States. All power to create law goes to the legislative branch. So when the executive branch...
Not the Uniform Law Commission. The Uniform Law Commission is a bunch of judges and attorneys that got together and made the UCC. So remember that one.
Well, that would be unconstitutional because the judicial branch is the other half that we're working on right now.
Correct.
Chevron dealt with the first half, guys. What we're trying to do is we're trying to put the Constitution back in its foundation. I think that's everyone's goal is, why is the Constitution not there? And it's not there because we had the executive branch writing policy, amending the law and stating it was ambiguous, and thus legislating through the executive branch, through their ambiguity. And
an administrative law judge, an administration is part of the executive branch, and a judge is part of the judicial branch. So by definition of the term, it's unconstitutional in my eyes.
Right. And you're absolutely right. But what I'm getting at here is that Chevron was executive branch. You don't get to create legislation. You don't get to amend the law based upon ambiguity. If you're not clear, then take your ambiguity back to the branch of government that does have authority to amend the law and get clarification. That's what Chevron was about.
That is exactly what happened.
Right. And so what happens there is that all of this bullshit that the executive branch built through their policy is removed. But now we got to do the second half, and that is judicial branch. You don't get to legislate either, right? Because they've been creating rulings and erroneously calling those rulings case law and directing everyone in the country to follow their case law. But you know what? Case law is not, but a judge-made ruling is not law because judges don't have the authority to legislate. You cannot legislate from the bench. So we have to get the second half addressed here. And this is the harder one because we got to get the judicial branch to admit that for 243 years, they have been following English bar, right? English protocol and not American protocol. Because in England, judges do create law. what judges state there
Without
is
without
law.
those Supreme Court rulings, we wouldn't have a lot of protections on our rights. So I mean, I get what you're saying, because on that end, yeah, the judges can't kind of like make their own policy where they're just like, oh, you can't file that paper. You know what I mean? Or make these things and call them law, but we are a
Yeah.
common law country, and that does come from case law. But the thing of it is that they have been abusing it.
Case law is not law. Judges make rulings
Right,
according to our separation of powers, our
right,
jurisprudence. Judges cannot create law. Now
right,
in
and
England,
you're
let me tell
correct
you,
about that.
in England, what they do is the king makes the law. He's a monarch. He makes the law. Therefore, he granted the ability for his judges to speak the law because he granted them the authority to do so. So in England, judges do create law. But here in America, the American people did not delegate the authority to legislate because all legislative power is vested in the legislative branch. When they brought in
Because the
judge-made
American people
rulings,
are the king.
right, because we're the sovereign. Yeah, and we, the king, didn't grant our judges the right to be able to create law. It's the separates powers. But take this for instance, okay? So of the first 28 justices that served on the United States Supreme Court, 22 of them owned their own slaves, right? And so then we have
Mm.
these rulings. We have these rulings such as Hurtado versus California from 1887, where that Supreme Court said, you know what, California, you don't have to have an indictment by a grand jury. It's okay if you do something different. And thus, they fundamentally changed and removed the Clause 1 of Amendment 5 through a judicial ruling. They amended the Constitution through a ruling, and then they called it case law. And so, if the Constitution says no person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on presentment or indictment of a grand jury, that's clear. You got to have it. So, when the judicial branch says in 1887, you don't got to do it anymore, then they changed the Constitution through an other than lawful manner, right? And there, that's what I'm talking about here. Is that I'm getting some feedback here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm not
So
trying to
Mr.
take away
Downing,
in any way.
Yeah,
our, our,
I'm getting bad feedback,
our
guys.
host of the show, Mr. Punisher, wants to know who's Appleman. I'm going to mute everyone for a second, other than Mr. Downing. Mr. Downing, the main host of the show has a question. He said, ask Mr. Downing if he will do an update on Court Channel, his own thing. He can have as much time or as little time as needed. So our main host wants to know if you're willing to do your own kind of podcast on here.
Of course it will. Yeah, yeah. I mean, my goal right now, guys, is this information. I just need to spread it. You know, the thing standing between me and these oral arguments is simply people being aware of this issue. The issue is absolutely 100% valid, 100% straightforward. There is nobody in government that's debating this. The only thing they're saying is states' rights. States have the right to be able to amend the Constitution of the United States, and that's not going to fly with the American people. It's not going to fly. In fact, that's going to destroy their own institution. So if the United States senators, such as Mark Wayne, when I sat down and talked with him and his senior counsel, and I told him that the state of Oklahoma has created a law that abridges the fundamental guarantees of your constituents, he said, oh yeah, but the states can do that, states' rights. And I explained to him, no, they can't, because that would mean the states' laws are more powerful than the Constitution of the United States, right? And after a few minutes of explaining this to someone that should have absolutely known this, you know, he said, okay, you're right, but that's low priority, right? That's low priority because we got budgets and finances that we got to deal with. That's low priority. And I said, are you serious? Because this is a fundamental constitutional right that tens of thousands of your constituents are being deprived of every day. And that's low priority to you, right? Compared to budgets and finances. And, you know, so that's where I left. That's where the whole meeting left, was that maybe if I get him a position paper, he'll look into it. but he's got other bigger things to deal with, budgets and finances. That's what they're arguing. And if that's the argument that they're going to have, I would welcome that argument, because that's not going to fly. States don't have the right to be able to enact their own alternative legislation and substitute it for the guarantees of the Constitution. Period.
And see that, and that's the thing with, you know, Maine is the tip of the iceberg up here. We're the root of all evil.
Yeah.
All of our court people and attorneys came from California. Our Democratic Party came from California, and you know, as you probably are aware, we've been on the news national up here because our own governor is violating censorship and a amendment that Mr. Trump had put out himself, and that's the genders,
Yeah.
you know, the transgenders in the sports. And we've made national news, local news, like the newspaper, but they're taking the focus and putting it on this thing instead of putting it on the parental rights, which is where it should be, because almost all of us in Maine have had our parental rights either terminated or are in process of them trying to terminate our parental rights.
So my whole argument on the parental rights thing is pretty simple. You know, I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but so we have fundamental constitutional rights. Anything that's within the Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments, those are called fundamental constitutional rights. Now, the First Amendment are the most important of all, because they're not rights, they're actually freedoms. If you read the Constitution, everything within the First Amendment are freedoms, and everything after that is a right. And the reason why is because everything contained within the First Amendment are God-given. Everything after that is not God-given. So you have the freedom to speak, you have the freedom of religion, you have the freedom of press. Those are freedoms because until the day you die, you will be able to speak, right? God gave you that right. But the right to bear arms is protected on the Second Amendment. That is a civil right, because God didn't create the gun. What God did give you is the absolute freedom to defend yourself, but the way in which you do it is something that we want to protect under the notions of right and wrong within our society. So we do it through the civil rights of the Second Amendment. So, you know, that's one thing that people get confused. But my point is that in 1984, the United States Supreme Court came out in a case called Roberts versus United States, and they said that you have the fundamental freedom of intimate association with your children without governmental interference, and that they have the right to intimate association with you without governmental interference. So you have the right to have a relationship with your child protected under the First Amendment, right? And it is found to be fundamental, incorporated by the Supreme Court in 1984. It's the right of intimate association. Now, it's important because God made you a mother and God made you a father. Only God could take that away. State can't do it. Therefore, it's God-given. That's why it had to be protected under the First Amendment. Now, because it was incorporated by the Supreme Court, that means that it exists. It's not enumerated. It's not written, but it exists. They already found it to be true. So for that reason, because it's found it to be fundamental, there's only one way that can be deprived by government, and that's what's called strict scrutiny, and it requires the compelling state interest test. Now, with the compelling state interest test, what has to happen is that the state has to essentially prove that there's nothing else that they can do but deprive you of this right. And any time that an act of deprivation is measured against strict scrutiny, 99% of the time, it's determined that the act of deprivation was exceeding the power authority statutorily conferred upon it by the state. And when I say you have to prove, it means that you have to go outside of the state to get approval. A fundamental right can only be taken by a federal court, because the federal Constitution is outside of the state's limited statutory governing limits, right? The federal Constitution is outside the state. So if the state could take away a federal right, then it would mean that it is abridging the federal domain, the states contained within. So just like they say to you every day, that's a state issue. Go back to the state and argue the state, you can't bring it in federal court. It's the same thing here. That's a federal issue. State, you can't go into a federal issue without exceeding the power or authority statutory conferred upon you. So there's 4 levels of judicial tests. There's 4 different types of tests that a judge uses. The highest is called strict scrutiny, and it requires the compelling state interest test. It's a very difficult measure to reach. But the lowest is called the discretionary test, meaning the judge can use his discretion to take away the right. Guys, read Blacks. A fundamental right can never, ever, ever be taken by discretion. And yet you walk in that courtroom and that judge takes away your child by his discretion. Guys, that's an abuse of discretion. So if you want to know what an abuse of discretion is, you would go to the United States Circuit Court Handbook, okay? And in it, it describes a two-part process to determine abuse of discretion. The first part is, did the judge rendering the decision, did he apply the incorrect test? The answer is yes. He was supposed to use the highest level test, and instead he used the lowest level test, right? So yes, an abuse of discretion has occurred. The second part is, any erroneous view of the law is an automatic abuse of discretion. And an erroneous view of the law is that in the judge's legal contemplation, that the lowest form of law, the state statute that permits him to deprive you of your right to intimate association with your child, is in legal contemplation superior to the fundamental rights of the United States Constitution protected by the First Amendment. That would be an obvious erroneous view of the law. Therefore, an automatic abuse of discretion has occurred. Now, according to Blackstone, anytime that you have an abuse of discretion by a public official, there's three crimes that automatically come with that. Automatically. One is perjury, because they made a promise, they didn't fulfill the promise, and therefore they've already implicitly invited punishment in the form of perjury should they fail to fulfill that promise. They've already accepted perjury. And so that's what's known as a per se crime. It's per se because you don't have to prove that they intended to do it or they willfully did it. Their willfulness and knowledge drives the promise they make. If you make a promise by oath that you will do something, you fail to do it, all I have to do is show that you made a promise and there was an obligation and you didn't do it and you're guilty. You've already invited punishment. So that's the first crime. The second crime is extortion, which is to bring about a desired result through an abuse of discretion, right? They're bringing about a result through an illegal means. They're abusing discretion to produce a result. That's extortion. And the third is oppression, because they are applying the law unequally amongst different members of society. That judge at one point in time, that day or the previous day, said, oh, I'm going to give you your right to be able to see your child, but I'm not going to give you your right. And that is, of course, oppression, because oppression is applying the law unequally by a person in position of authority, right? So those three crimes are automatic, no matter what. So my point here is that we have a very significant path, a very direct path that is absolutely 100% constitutionally based, that is a direct result of a breach of obligation, constitutionally codified, and it's already been incorporated by the United States Supreme Court. Now, the reason why I'm not relying upon that to pursue the work I'm doing, because you guys, if you know what I'm doing, you know that I'm pursuing this from the indictment issue, right? And the reason why I'm doing it through the indictment issue is because Clause 1 of Amendment 5 specifically enumerates that right. And there's a difference between an enumerated right and an unenumerated right when it comes to actions such as this. If I were to go with the family unit, right, that was found to exist by the Supreme Court in 1984, found to exist, which means that if I relied upon it being unenumerated, that court could say, oh no, it doesn't exist, right? But the fact that it is enumerated, that you must have an indictment by a grand jury, that is a facial constitutional violation. And that could be, that can't be refuted because it's right there. You must have an indictment by a grand jury before arresting someone, holding them over, and therefore state when you didn't do it, that act of deprivation gives rise to injunctive relief because you did not have the prohibitory element, which is you must have an indictment before arresting someone. So I'm relying upon the much stronger argument to get into the court in order to be able to have the argument that's going to include the fact that, hey, the states cannot bring an accusation against you and also be the judge against you. That's Article 3. So when a state brings
The
an accusation,
enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights should not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Sorry.
Yeah, right.
That's the Ninth Amendment.
But because of the size of this, because when we win this, what has to happen is that we must go back to the point of the deprivation of freedom. So, you know, every contract that government has made as a result of relying upon an inferior state statute that is unconstitutional, every one of those contracts are void, right? And they're not void from the moment that we determine that the law is unconstitutional. According to Norton versus Shelby County, that law was always unconstitutional from the moment it's created. So any contract that was created by the state that relied upon a law that says you don't have to do and protect what the Constitution of the United States says, those contracts are void. That means restore the children that were taken as a result of relying upon an illegal, unconstitutional law. Now, that's supposed to happen through preemption, right? But I can't say how it's going to play out, because obviously this is a big deal. But what I can say is that the court would have probably tried their best to declare that Roberts is not valid, that ruling is not valid, that the right doesn't exist, simply because of the size of this particular case. They don't want to fix this problem. That's why I had to go with the indictment issue. Right? That's why I went that way. There's 700,000 people currently in prison here in America that never received an indictment by a grand jury, despite the fact that is constitutionally obligated, codified, and enumerated for everyone to see. So, state, why don't you have an indictment?
Now,
I also have a PDF on
Now
the
here's-
statistics of incarcerated parents to take a look at. So yeah, you're correct.
Now,
here's
the other problem is there's 700,000 that didn't receive an indictment, such as in the state of Connecticut, state of Washington. Those two states, they haven't never in the history of their country, in the history of the state, ever convicted someone legally and lawfully, because they don't conduct a grand jury at all, right? Same thing in Michigan and so on. But the rest of the states, 99% of all people never got to be present in that grand jury to confront the accusations against them. Now let me explain something real quick here. The purpose of the grand jury is to protect the accused from hasty or malicious charges from an overzealous prosecutor, right? The purpose is to protect the accused from the prosecutor. And yet the prosecutor is denying the accused to be present in the very proceeding that exists for their protection. That is obstruction of justice, man. Right?
they did that to me.
Yeah.
Definitely obstruction of justice, brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I'm the one that's been talking to you in
Okay,
text
yeah.
that I wanted
Yeah,
to
so
meet.
you're going to be my advocate when I get up there. We're going to serve them. Yeah. So you were supposed to be present in that grand jury. Everyone was supposed to be present. The prosecutor was not to deny you the right to be present, to benefit from the very proceeding that exists for your protection. And by that crime being committed, by the obstruction of justice being committed, that indictment derives from a criminal act, meaning that indictment is criminal. Everything that they did after that, the moment that prosecutor broke the law by conspiring to prevent you to be present, everything is unconstitutional. Everything. It all derives from an unconstitutional, illegal, and criminal act by a state agent, prosecutor. And that's 2.9 million people that affects that right now, currently incarcerated, right? So that's a big deal. And that's directly enumerated. Anyone can read in the Constitution that it says that they have to have it, and yet they didn't. So
We got one more
that's what we
guest
rely
hopefully
upon
on
to
tonight,
get
but
heard.
got some time
Yeah.
yet, Jim.
Right. That's where I'm at, guys. So if you got questions, I'll answer you.
You got time, brother.
Well, no, you basically answered my question, because I've been telling my attorney that I am supposed to be at that indictment hearing, and he lied to me point blank and told me, he's like, no, you're not.
That's what they're taught, dude. That's what they're taught. But just because that's what they do doesn't make it right. You know,
Doesn't
anyone
make
with
it
any
right.
Common sense, anyone with any common sense would know that if that grand jury proceeding is there for the accused's protection from a prosecutor, then when the prosecutor conspires by and between his client, the accuser, to deny the accused to be present, come on, man. You know, that it doesn't take rocket science to understand that prosecutor is abusing the very proceeding that exists to protect the accused from him, right? Now,
You know, that's the same thing they do in family court.
Yeah.
And here's the other thing, Tawana. Not only is he denying that, my attorney told me today that he said, the DA in Portland said, that if I was to challenge my bail and have my bail changed, they would revoke my bail and put me back in prison.
Yeah. So I'm bringing forward in this case, I'm bringing forward what is called the formula of intimidation. Guys, all intimidation follows the same formula, all of it, okay? It goes like this. If you don't do X, I would do to you Y, whereby X is my envisioned outcome and Y is the result my powers can cause, okay? So if I have powers to bear arms, so if I have the power to bear arms and I go out and buy a gun, and I take that gun and I point it at you and I employ the formula of intimidation, it goes like this. If you don't give me your money, I will shoot you. My envisioned outcome is I want your money. Result my powers to cause, I'll shoot you. You formulate a contract with me because of the pure duress that I inflicted upon you, not because you want me to have your money. That is called the crime of robbery, right? To formulate a contract through illegal means with the threat of immediate bodily harm. That's the definition of robbery, okay? So I just committed robbery by abusing my powers, by employing the formula of intimidation and telling you, if you don't do this, I'm going to do that to you, right? Now, if I'm a prosecutor, I have certain powers too. I have the power to send you to prison. I have the power to give you charges. And if I say to you, if you don't plead guilty, I'm going to send you to prison for 20 years, right? My envisioned outcome is I want you to plead guilty, result in my powers cause, I'll send you to prison for 20 years. We formulate that contract, not because you want to go to prison or give up your freedom, but as a result of the fear or duress that I've inflicted upon you. That's called extortion. Extortion is to formulate a contract through illegal means with the threat of future harm. So if you use the threat of future harm, that's extortion, dude. Extortion. And that's what they did to you. They employed the formula of intimidation, and that formula exists no matter what type of extortion it is. Whatever they're abusing in order to threaten you, to get you to do what they want, it's a fucking crime. Every time. There is
I'm gonna
telling
make sure
people
that
that,
you get my
man.
number. So
there is no plea bargain that exists here in America that is valid, because every one of them derived from a threat made to you by a public official, and that threat nullifies
It's all
and renders
coercion,
void.
man.
Absolutely. So duress can never be used to formulate a contract. Duress is a justifiable defense for a crime, a breach of contract, or tort. So the moment that you use duress to formulate a contract, that contract's void. So if I say to you, if you don't plead guilty, I'm going to send you to prison for 20 years, that duress justifies the breach of contract and it renders void that entire contract. Because you cannot go to prison here in America. According to Title 18, 4083, you cannot be sent to prison without your consent. And consent is a very important term because it's the contractual term, meaning that you must agree to go to prison here in America. Because our government that was created to preserve your liberty cannot steal it from you. You have to agree to give it up. And so you cannot be sent to prison here in America without your consent. So
That's why it's called a voluntary acknowledgement of paternity. That's why they call it that.
Yeah. You cannot be sent to prison without your consent. So when they use duress to formulate or obtain your consent, it's void, man. Void. It can't do that. So, and they're gonna say to you, like, you're in this situation right now, and I want to tell you that when you bring this up to your attorney, I want you to be armed with something else, and that is who determines whether or not you have been intimidated, right? Who makes that determination? So intimidation is an inward manifestation, not an outward manifestation. You and only you can determine whether or not you've been intimidated. That judge cannot tell you that you have not. So if that prosecutor directly or indirectly threatened you and it caused you to be intimidated in such a manner that it tampered with you as witness, that's a crime, and you need to bring that crime up. And when that judge says to you, I don't think you've been intimidated, you need to say to that judge, it's not a scratch on my arm. I can't show you it. It's inside of me. He can't argue with it because it's an inward manifestation, not outward, right? If you were to threaten their witness, if you were to call up their witness, the accuser, and say to them, I'm going to shoot you if you come and testify, they cannot come to you and say to you, I'm going to stay in prison for 20 years if you come and testify. It's witness tampering, intimidation, and by that act, it nullifies, renders void the act. So, I'll be up there this week. We're going to get your affidavit. We're going to get this fixed, man. All right?
that's my mom right there that put that comment in there, so you can see what is actually going on.
Well, ma'am, what's going on is that they're trying to enslave your son in a for-profit, state-run industry for the direct benefit of the state, because they make a lot of money off your son being in that institution. And we're tired of our children being stolen because your son
They get about 6 times what people think they get. Yeah, he's right about that.
Well, so it's the attorney general. What happens is you go into a guardianship, okay? A guardianship. It's the same as the CPS issue. Because when you go into a guardianship, your fiduciary or your guardian is the attorney general, right? Attorney general. And he can oversee your health welfare needs. He's your fiduciary agent, which means that your QSIP, right? Your SESQV account, your treasury account, he has access to that because he's in charge of you. He's your guardian, right? And as your guardian, they're pulling all the money out of that SESQV, all the profit, all the interest. They're pulling. That's why they love to give life without parole, is because the moment
they are a fiduciary.
They are fiduciary, but they believe through the attorney general that they can take all that money out of your SESQV, and that's what they're doing. Don't kid yourself. They're stealing hundreds of millions of dollars off of every single person because every single every single cent that comes in by interest. If you don't use it because you aren't out buying a house or out buying a car, as long as you're in prison under guardianship for them, you're a minor, and they can take that money. That's why what I'm proposing is we get this shit out of the Attorney General's hands first off, because he shouldn't have control. Because the issue of morality is not a matter of public punishment; it's a matter of public health. So the first thing we got to do is take these people and not put them into a place that's going to hurt them more, so that they can profit off those involuntary service. But we're going to put them into an institution where we're going to be able to heal them, right? Because it's a matter of public health. So we got to first switch from Attorney General being in charge to Secretary of Health and Human Services, and start healing people from the trauma that's been inflicted upon them. But nonetheless, it's up to the people to make this decision. And right now, they're robbing you of hundreds of millions of dollars through that Treasury account, the SQV, and we need to be honest about that, because they're making a lot of money out of it. But remember, when they take a child through CPS, right? That child, because they've lost the love of their parents, that child now has an 80% likelihood of going to prison over their lifetime. So not only are
There
they
it
getting
is.
not only are they getting the initial financial incentive of removing the child, but they're getting the long-term financial incentive of making it a self-sustaining product, because that child is probably going to prison over their lifetime, and they know this. That's why there's
And
12
it all
million
starts
children
in that
treated.
magic moment at the hospital.
And it's fucking
It does.
disgusting. So every single prisoner is someone's child, and we want all these children home. And that's what I'm trying to do, guys. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm not trying to do this for fucking me, fame. I'm not doing it for money. I ain't no fucking grifter. I'm out here doing this because I care about my country enough that I'm going to put my life on hold and fucking get out here and do everything I can to fix it. And I don't give a fuck about any one of these assholes that's talking shit about me, because those motherfuckers are just jealous. That's all it is, right? So if you don't like me, you don't like what I'm doing, awesome. Step to the side and let me through, because I'm going to finish this with or without you. All right?
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah. We took that oath for a reason.
Yeah, I did. And I'm gonna fulfill my oath, man. Absolutely,
Yeah.
100%.
Right there with you. I told
Appreciate
the two state police officers that were here at my house the other day. I said, we're coming from these judges, and I took an oath like you did, and yeah, we're coming. I said, unfortunately, you can either stand on my side of the street or the other side of the street. I said, but I don't care. I'm coming. So,
100%, man.
I have not taken an oath to the Constitution, but I do follow it every day wholeheartedly. That's why I have a leather-bound book of it that I carry around with me.
Right on, brother. You see, so
Couldn't recommend it enough, man.
I'm pretty confident that the veterans were meant to be the militia, right? Because the active duty military, they wouldn't come into the states, because they're still under control of the executive branch. So if the executive branch is involved in a conspiracy to undermine the laws of the United States, then they would be following the direction of the criminal, right? Of the fraudster. But the veterans are a whole different ballgame, We took an oath, and if we have an honorable discharge, it's imprinted on our heart, man. And we have an obligation, because of that imprint, to do something about it when we encounter someone warring against the Constitution. And that's what happened to me, this judge is telling me he's not going to enforce the laws of the United States. Well, motherfucker, I do so.
Me too, man, and I didn't even take an oath.
And
yeah.
And so one of the things that we're getting ready to do is these post offices are refusing to deliver these affidavits. They're being returned to sender at every single one of them, all 10 of them. And they've been doing this for a few weeks now. And so I can't get the affidavits anymore. They're just going back to sender. Now you guys can understand why they would do that, because that's going to impact my credibility. That's going to reduce the reliability of this. And so, they're wanting to cause conflict.
They're doing to you what they did to all of us.
But you know what? That's
or what we did to them.
Because what I'm looking at doing is we want to get all of the people, all of the lower courts, all the county agents all notified now. I've done the state, the Attorney General of the state. I've done the Supreme Court of state. I've done all the upper level, but I can't possibly get out there to each one of the counties. And so we're working on right now getting some videos together to explain how to do it, what to do. We got the indictment affidavit that's on the website already. And we got 3 affidavits for the deprivation of the familial unit that's coming on the website. So people are going to be able to go out, download that affidavit, and go serve it on your fucking chief judge within your county. Go serve it on your county prosecutor, right? We want to build up the base now to fall because I built up the top. It's time to do the base, and once we do that, I think we're going to see this whole fucking thing collapse because we need to raise the noise up, right? And once we start doing that, I think that we're going to get the attention we need because this is a very, very simple, straightforward issue. States don't have the authority to do something contrary to the Constitution, and yet they are directly enumerated violation. So, yeah.
They've done a lot.
What I hate is the blatant disregard they have for it too when they do this. They're just, oh, you don't have those rights in my court. Excuse me?
I'm telling you, I've been in at least 70 courtrooms over the last 20 months, at least 70 court in 16 different states where they made that statement. I mean, the judges like
They say that a lot, don't they?
Yeah, not in my courtroom, not in my courtroom, right? And that's absolutely insane because that court doesn't exist without the Constitution. It only has the
Exactly.
but here's the problem. This goes back to the ALJs. Guys, I want you guys to just think about something. You know, just think about it. I'm conservative. I would normally support Trump, but when I see things, see things where words and actions don't align, I want to bring it up, and I want you guys to think about it too. Okay, so remember what I did. You know, right after I got out of the military, you know, working for intelligence, I was trained to identify liars. That's what I did. Right. So there's certain things that I will key in on. I know liars, and I've gotten way better over the last couple of years. Trust me. But here's the thing. So we had the Chevron ruling, June 28th, and that was executive branch. You do not get to legislate. You can't do whatever you want to do. The very next week, right? The very next week, we had the Trump immunity case, and that was executive officer. You can do whatever you want to do. Those two rulings were in direct opposition with one another, and no one's talking about that. Why is it that one week, executive branch, you don't get to do whatever you want, but the next week, executive officer, you do get to do whatever you want? I knew the moment that the Trump immunity case came out, I knew that there was something wrong. I knew that there was an agreement that was in place, and I didn't know what the agreement was, but I think I do now. And let me tell you what I think, okay? I think that this whole ALJ thing, I think that is to get us to look in that direction. Because anytime government says something, it's a diversion, you guys. You must understand, government loves diversions. They get us looking one way because it's a looky-loo, because they're over here robbing us blind, and so they get us looking over here. Those judges, right, whether they were ALJs working for the executive branch or not, they portrayed themselves as judges under the judicial branch. We went in that courtroom believing that they were a judge under the judicial branch, okay?
Right.
But they're trying to get us to look over here and say, oh, they're part of the executive branch. Why would they do that? Because if we agree to that, if we agree that that's true, Trump could grant immunity onto his agents because he's been given immunity. And by granting immunity onto his agents, all that they've been doing would all be valid, right? Okay. I don't know if that's what they're doing, but I'm telling you that their words and actions don't align right now. And I'm not going to trust when they tell us to look over here. I'm not going to trust it unless their actions are aligning with that. So I think you guys need to be very, very cautious about believing this. And you need to be aware that if we agree that they're under the executive branch, if we agree to that, Trump could grant them immunity, which would validate all their decisions. And we would not get the outcome that we're seeking right now. Now, the counter argument to that is that if they were under the executive branch, that's fine. But if I walk up to you on the street and I pull out a water gun and I say to you, give me your money, or I'm going to shoot you. If you believe that water gun is real, it's real. And I'm going to go to prison because you believe that was a real gun, and I portrayed it as a real gun. These judges, when we were called into that courtroom, and they stood and they sat there and they said, I'm a judge. They portrayed themselves as a judge. They're a judge, right? Because we interpreted it as such. They are part of the judicial branch because they were operating under the presumption that they
And
were.
that would be color of law.
Exactly.
Yep.
So I want us to know that even if they were under the executive branch, they were under the judicial because they portrayed themselves as such, and the judicial branch never corrected them. So don't let them off, guys. Don't let them go over here, because no one in America was ever supposed to have immunity. And it's very strange that they gave immunity.
There is no immunity to an oath of office violation still to this day, but
Well,
They won't
and
enforce it.
I'm just saying that there's
Yeah.
a strong potential that if we're going to permit them to do this, right, that we're not going to get the outcome that we want. Words and actions are not aligning right now, guys. They're not aligning. So I want you to think
Yeah,
about that.
I've noticed the same thing because all of us are out here fighting for our kids, and they're not doing a goddamn thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they wanted to put the Constitution back at the foundation, because that's what the administration campaigned about. If they wanted to do that, then they wouldn't have on the very first day in office signed an executive order expanding the private prison contract. That's contrary to putting the Constitution back to the foundation. They wouldn't have turned on the green light to the death penalty on the federal side. Those are things that are contrary to what they said. So I would just be cautious. And another thing is that if they wanted the Constitution back to the foundation, then why are they still charging by information today? Why are the prosecutors across the country still charging by information? That's not putting the Constitution back to the foundation. So I'm only
And
telling you guys,
why are they charging you on hearsay accusations too?
right, and not permitting you to be present in the grand jury.
Right.
I mean, there's certain things that would need to happen if that's what they wanted to do, and yet it's business as normal right now, you guys. So, just be careful about what you accept, right? Because our government has got a long history of creating diversions to get you looking the opposite direction, so that they can rob you over here or screw you over here. And what I'm seeing right now is just more of the same, you guys. And you can hate me for saying that. I love what they're doing on the corruption side. I love that, right? But the problem there is that our money's worthless anyway. Why are we focused on the money when we should be focused on what the people need? Because the Constitution doesn't protect money; it protects the people. You want to put the Constitution back foundation, start dealing with the societal issues, and who gives a shit about the money? It's worthless any fucking way, right? But I love what they're doing. I think it's great. But once again, like it's fucking debt on debt. It's nothing. Money's worthless.
Yeah. I hear you
You know?
there.
So, all right, guys. Well, I
I
appreciate you
just
guys having me on.
all I did was throw it in my administrative law judge argument that states that one's a part of the executive, one's a part of the judicial, and it's all in one term. That's a clear violation. And then this on top of it, and then the Holmberg versus Holmberg ruling, and then you got other supporting evidence you can line up there. But yeah, no, don't just bank off of one executive branch document being issued. No, definitely not.
Yeah.
And there's definitely ulterior motives in there somewhere. You can, yeah.
Yeah. LT, you're absolutely right there. Whoever LT, I mean, you say that the love of money is the problem, and that they love it. Guys, what I've been trying to do is today they're not changing because it's cheaper for them to continue to do business unlawfully. We have to figure out a way to make it more expensive for them to continue to do business the way that they're doing it today. That's what we're trying to figure out, and I haven't quite dialed in on what that is. How can we make it more expensive for them not to change and continue to just ignore this than it is to fix it and go the right way? So that's what we have to
Simple
figure out.
sabotage.
Well, I mean, there's
CIA
wrong money
manual.
by media. But another might be attacking their bonds. Every one of them, as of this moment, in
That
39
word.
states, have been notified that they're committing crimes. That would mean that every single agent within 39 states under the executive and judicial branch, because I provided notice to all of them, we get attached to every single one of their bonds right now, right? Because we give them ample time to correct their behavior. They didn't. Now, so 39 states all at once attached to their bonds. That could cost them a little bit, I think. But that's the coordinated movement that
Yeah.
I would need a lot of people on board supporting. There's a lot that has to be done to make that happen. Because I wouldn't do it one at a
Definitely
time. We do
blow.
one single. Yeah.
I was I was around when that Chevron doctrine got overturned, man. That was I was like, wow, they're finally stripping the executive branch ability to overrule the judge, eh? Never thought that would happen.
Well, so consider this, right? When Chevron came out, I had just finished serving all the attorney generals, all the state attorney generals. So
Mm-hmm.
so what that was about was the prosecutors are responsible for determining the correct charging instrument. Is it going to be information? Is it going to be presentment? Is it going to be indictment? Well, they were using the incorrect one. They were going with information. And then they were going to the judge, part of the judicial branch. They were going to the judge and saying to the judge, hey, please hold this person over. And that judge was saying, okay, looks good. I'm going to hold him over. But it wasn't the judge's responsibility to determine which charging instrument was in place. It was his responsibility to make sure that the proper documentation was there, right? But it wasn't them creating the incorrect charging instrument. They were in they were in conspiracy with it. Now, when there's a criminal conspiracy, because as of Chevron, I had already served 32 of the states, right, with this notice that hey, you guys are all committing crimes. And now the judge is a member of the conspiracy because of their negligence. They didn't make sure the proper documentation was there. So that's a pretty big deal. There's 700,000 people that are directly unconstitutionally deprived of their liberty, and that's just current. So to get out of a criminal conspiracy once you're a part of it, there's only two ways. One is notify the authorities of the crime, right? But if you are the authorities, that doesn't do any good. Or two, notify your co-conspirators of your intent to no longer participate, but that must be done by an affirmative action. We have to see it. If we don't see it, there is no action. So Chevron was the judicial branch telling the executive branch, we're no longer going to participate in this. You've been bringing us the incorrect charging instrument. That was them putting out an affirmative action telling them that we're no longer going to participate in this conspiracy. And that was the judicial branch setting up the executive branch to take the fall for all this if they continue to do it, or once it comes forward. Because this
which is interesting because, well, at least in family court cases, it started in Congress is where this really, Congress and the president, but yeah, they're all complicit at this point. They're all, it's all one big giant cesspool sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sucks. But here we are. We're fighting every day, aren't we? And I tell everybody, every parent, look at Psalm 8, 2. If you read Bible, go ahead and read Psalm 8, 2. That's one of my favorite verses, I think. It deals with out of the mouth of children, you grow power. You're the basically the God saying don't mess with children, basically. So I always refer back to that when I feel dissuaded in where I stand as far as like my parental rights are concerned. I always look back to that Bible verse and it gives me comfort. So
yeah. So someone just popped up and said case law precedent is paramount. Case law isn't even law. That's the whole issue here. Is that judges don't create law. So let's. I'm not going to argue.
It's a ruling. It's just a ruling on what the law says. It's just their interpretation of what the law says, because that's their job, is to interpret the law. It's the executive branch's job to enforce the law. It's the legislative branch's job to make the law. And these dang state legislatures, you are right about the state legislatures. It does say that.
So all legislative power, that's all power to make, create, or destroy law. That's in the legislative branch. That's the separation powers. The judicial branch
and the people, because if it's not pursuant to the Constitution, then it's void.
Well, so the judicial branch can only rule. So when the judicial branch created a ruling and called it law, that's unconstitutional. Judges cannot create law. So when you say case law, I'm going to tell you case law is unconstitutional. There is no law because judges can't create law here in America.
Right. Is the establishment of precedent is that what they have done is, what they did was they come in and they say, hey, okay, look, if we have a case that is similar to this case, albeit almost identical, then we're going to rule in this case how we ruled in the previous case when it comes to the case before them. So without judges' ability to judge the law, they can't judge the law. So saying a judge's ruling isn't law is true, but it is, however, constitutional for that to carry weight, because the judicial branch has all of the judicial determination when it comes to things of that nature. However, I will say that Marbury versus Madison, a Supreme Court case in which the Supreme Court first struck down an unconstitutional law, stated that an unconstitutional law is void. And another Supreme Court case ruling that I've got that goes back and states that it's void from the beginning if it's an unconstitutional law. So, I mean, what they want to do is they want to throw these circuit court decisions and these district court decisions at you and say that applies somehow. That's not, no, those do not apply except in the circuit and the district in which they were held. The ones that do are the Supreme Courts of each state and the Supreme Court of the United States. Those are the ones that hold judicial power. The rest of them hold power that is vested in them through the legislature, which is exacted under the executive branch, which is a violation of the separation of powers doctrine. They're not supposed to be doing that.
Okay. Well,
So you see there's a flaw in all their shenanigans.
So the judicial branch doesn't
From the
have the authority
beginning.
to. But nonetheless, common law or the ability of precedent, that deals with civil law. It has nothing to do with criminal law. Criminal law was procedurally based. So it has no place within criminal law because the procedures are in place. So when they make a decision in 1887 or a decision in 1833 that says you don't get an indictment by a grand jury, such as they did, then if that were true, then that would mean that the next case doesn't get indicted by a grand jury. That would mean that they're relying upon the flawed decision of the man that came before them.
There's also the fact that if you can point out the unconstitutionality of a ruling, like a Supreme Court ruling, it's void because it goes against the Constitution, like you're saying right now. If it goes against the Constitution and the Supreme Court ruled that, then they were wrong. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You always bring that up. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, bro.
Oh no, I mean I think I made my point. So but precedent has no place within American jurisprudence. It has no place. That's English bar. You guys are welcome to go and argue that in the English side. But here in America, we do not delegate the authority to legislate at all. So for them to say that I have an oath with fidelity to the Constitution, but yet I'm going to go to the flawed decision of the man that came before me. I'm not going to the object to which my fidelity is bound. I have fidelity to the Constitution because I swore by oath that I would do it. So when they decide that they're going to go to case law or judge-made rulings,
this is the one they got to follow.
Then
no matter what they're doing.
Right. So
the Constitution.
The Constitution is based upon suffrage. The majority of people make a decision to alter or amend the Constitution of the United States, right? So that requires the majority of people. The opposite of constitutionalism then is one single person imposing their will upon the rest of the nation. That's why the constitutionalism is the exact opposite of case law or judge-made rulings. Exact opposite. So the problem there is that then in the hierarchy of law, with Constitution being the foundation, that would mean that the opposite would be judge-made rulings. So if the Constitution,
the only ones that carry any weight are the ones that are supporting your rights. If it's not defending, invoking, or supporting a right, then that judicial determination doesn't hold any weight.
Yeah. So all right. Yeah.
He's right about that. And they aren't supposed to be doing legislature. Like United States code, they're not supposed to be enforced. Judges don't enforce statutes and codes. That's the cops' job. Right. They got it all messed up.
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, the judicial branch is doing all three of them. They're administering, enforcing, and creating law. And that's a
I think if you violate somebody's rights, that's where there's a problem. That's what I believe.
Well,
but again,
the problem is,
I'm just a guy.
If you have constitutional rights and you go into that courtroom and you say that your rights have been violated, they don't go to the Constitution to determine whether or not your rights have been violated. They go to case law, which means that they're going to the opposite of what they're supposed to do.
Hate that, don't you?
Right? So
I hate when they do that.
Right. Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I need to step off. I got to get over to the hotel here. All right. So.
All right. Thank you for joining us.
God bless.
I appreciate it, man.
So that was good
Yeah,
that you
dude.
were talking about
Yeah,
the
no,
minor.
he's right. He's definitely 100% right. Some points he brought up that I had not even thought about. You know what I mean?
Well, I think this is interesting too. And I wanted to touch base about this with everyone. Is that we had the thing happen in South Carolina, North Carolina, whatever, where they had the floods. Now all of a sudden they're under major fires.
Yeah.
Distraction, as he was saying, it's a distraction.
We're
Yeah,
living
they
in the
always
world of
distract.
distractions.
It's because if you're not looking over here, you won't see what's happening over here.
Yep.
Don't jump.
Why is Fort Knox missing billions and billions of gold?
Right.
I was going to discuss that today. A little bit of news. Fort Knox is missing $44 billion worth of gold or something like that.
Yep. I seen the same thing
Apparently,
earlier.
we've been robbed.
No way.
Yeah. Way.
Well,
This
yeah,
isn't a government. That's the whole problem. You guys keep thinking it's a government. It's a corporation.
it's not.
Right. So it was really good that he was talking about the minor account and the bonds. I kind of wish that we could do a topic or a meeting sometime just on, getting away from being a U.S. citizen, with some understandings of the privileges, the rights, the Constitution, the jurisdictions, and the bonds, and kind of put it all together.
That sounds great, man.
Everyone's thinking about, oh, we want to be a U.S. citizen, but no, actually, when you're educated, you really don't want to be one. And yeah, I mean,
This president does not sign United States, the corporation. He signs United States, comma, of America.
on what?
When he signs anything that's foreign. Donald Trump doesn't sign on behalf of the corporation. He signs on behalf of the republic.
How can you confirm that?
That is one thing about him. That is one thing about him I'll give him. But he very well could be robbing us too. You never know.
I don't think any of them are who they say they are. Not with the technologies they have now. I don't believe Trump's Trump. I don't believe anybody's anybody. Like, it's just too much
Man,
scientific.
I couldn't tell you with the AI these days, but
No, with all the masks and everyone doing, wearing each other's faces and, voiceovers.
all this other stuff, yeah, I feel it.
Dude.
And how they've lied to us about the planet being round.
Yeah, there's so much stuff that doesn't make any sense. And I thought about it when I was a kid. I'm like,
It's an
everything that-
oblong spheroid. What they're hiding from you is that they didn't go to the moon when they said they did. They
'Cause
went
they
later.
can't.
They went later.
No, they can't. They can't go to the moon. The moon is the desert. That's the moon.
But
Proven fact.
at
Yeah,
any
Joe
rate,
Rogan-
man, I'm not going to argue that subject with you because we'll be here all night. I'm just going to agree to disagree. But at any rate, they're definitely hiding a lot of shit from us. Either way, we are an experiment to them. No matter if the earth is flat or round, we are an experiment to them. This I know.
But better yet, why don't we touch on the subject of adrenochrome?
We can touch on that subject. I have the patent for it in my files.
Yeah, I've seen it. I've seen what
I've
what
read
it
over
comes
all
from
of it.
and how they did it. Yep, me too.
45 CFR 46. You know that movie? You know that movie where they got? I mean, this is reaching out there, but I ask everybody, look this up. Remember that movie, Monsters Inc.,
Yep.
where they scare the crap out of children? Well, adrenaline is produced by fear response. So in order to get oxidized adrenaline in its purest form, you need the purest form of fear response. Where would that come from, my friend?
Children.
Thus, we have a problem. Now, I
Darren called
originally
that out.
dismissed adrenochrome as a conspiracy, but I looked into it and found the patent, and then I was startled. You go ahead. I'm very rude, sorry.
Nope, no, Darren called it out too. And I got to give Darren credit because he pointed me in that direction. And I did some investigating into it and found the information on it.
It's not good, man.
They actually tortured children.
It's not good.
And CPS.
They scare them in daycare centers with masks. It's on an Illuminati card from 1995. Actually, 1994, my bad.
Yeah.
And this is what the people in Hollywood are using to stay young.
They're trying to find an immortality.
And it sells.
There's also the theory that aliens are harvesting our biological material in order to allow their species to continue to live on. That is also a theory that's out there. As far as proof of that, I have little as of yet, but that is highly sus. That is highly sus at this point. But I have little to go on other than some CIA documents and things. Stuff I'm not supposed to have.
Yeah, I got some stuff I'm not supposed to have either.
Well,
all right, guys, I'm gonna pop off here and let you guys talk and finish your show. We got about
15 minutes,
10 or
if that.
15 minutes.
So I'm gonna try to get Ricardo on next week.
Yeah, he's on vacation.
Yeah, he went on vacation. That's good, man. Got to spend time with the family.
Yeah.
Thing is, man, you got to keep fighting one way or another. But you're not alone. There's many parents just like us out here doing the same thing, and it's up to all of us to stick together, to take these fools on and make sure that they know, the American people, you're not taking away our rights. You're not taking away our rights anymore.
I was talking to this one guy that he was like, well, he said something to me and I'm like, dude, I wasn't asking for help. I'm like, it was a conversation. He was like, oh, well, then I can't help you, and like we can't talk or something like that. And I'm like it just seems like everyone is so pissed off and so secluded that, like, if you don't take their way, like, you're not worthy. And it's like, dude, like, we're all in this together, man, and there's got to be more than one way to skin this thing, you know?
And there is more than one way to skin this cat. The only reason I keep saying that is because the ones in the state court jurisdiction are the ones that keep ignoring the Constitution. That's the only reason I say go federal. But you're already way up there beyond where I'm at, for sure, or where any of us in this group that I made, as far as I could tell. Ricardo's right behind you, and then comes John, and then me. Because I'm far from ready yet. I still have to change it from an injunction to a complaint. Because right now I still have it on the injunction format for appeal. I'm not trying to appeal. I don't want Ricker Feldman. You know what I mean? I don't want to deal with Ricker Feldman. It's stupid.
Right.
I'd rather just skip that shit. But But just
Yeah,
just to square this off here for.
yeah.
Oh, you go ahead.
No, I think I was just gonna say, like, you know, the states they like Rooker because it gives them the immunity, but if it's not a state court, they don't get immunity. So
The thing is, if they're enforcing child support, they're under they're under a what is it 42 USC 659B requirements applicable to private persons. They don't get immunity. They've expressly waived their immunity by involving themselves in the contract.
right, yeah. So
If
yeah,
people don't know, you know what I'm saying?
I mean,
Then that's how they get it.
I wish I wasn't this far either, but yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So full speed ahead, man. Well, let me know next time you want
The
to do
case
this
law
chat.
for the day.
Huh?
What was that? What was that?
I'll just say, well, let me know the next time you're gonna do one of these video things.
Yeah, of course.
And
Should be every Sunday, 7 to 9 p.m.
damn, that's like my bedtime, man.
Yeah, Eastern Standard though. Yeah, you're over in Eastern.
Yeah, that's all right. Well, maybe, I mean, hopefully Tanawa can come back on. He said he wants to go to Maine, and I know there's a lot of stuff going on in Maine. And I know now the House bill in New Hampshire, they want to do a study program. There's a new bill coming out that they don't want to get rid of, they don't want to abolish family court. They want to do a study program. I'm like, we've been studying it for 20 years. Like, what else do you want to know?
Study what? Dude, I got all the studying they need. Just send them to me. I got all the statistics. I'm collecting them right now.
I know. Like when Gail sent out the new email saying that one of the oppositions want to do a study group, and we were like, you don't think 20 years of study is enough? But
Man, case law of the day is Washington versus Glucksberg. There is no traditionally established fundamental right to physician-assisted suicide. There is, however, a fundamental, inherent, inalienable, means you can't take it away, right of parents to direct the care, custody, and rearing of their children that is deeply rooted in American tradition.
yeah, but you gotta
That's
understand
today's.
something. Like, I understand everything we're doing and everything we're reading, and the amount of time I read fucking case law and rules and federal rules, and it doesn't matter. I got 19 judges that all dismiss my case for protective orders without evidence in family court. So it doesn't matter.
Oh yeah, no, this is just for the viewers. That was just for the viewers. That was case law.
You know what I mean? Like we can
Yeah.
cite all the shit we want, but I still have 19 judges that dismiss my case.
That
Like,
won't help you. Yeah.
no, I'm like, so
Sounds like New Hampshire sucks.
you know, we're supposed to be the live free or die state. Well, apparently,
Really?
yeah. Well, that's the motto: live free or die.
The courthouse that came after me, their motto is let freedom ring.
Where, in Ukraine?
I tell you, man, isn't it crazy?
It's sad, man. Like, everything that we were taught seems to be false.
Well, they thought they were going to pull a fast one on us, but it's not going to work because the people aren't having it, and that's clear to see.
Your speaking truth won't help when it comes to the death. No, whoever that LT person is right. Like, I've talked to so many people, and nobody cares. Like, they have child support, they don't see their kids, and they don't want to fight. And I'm like, cool, thanks.
Right, but you don't want to come tell your story, right? You know,
Right.
just so you know, an unrebutted affidavit stands as truth in both law and commerce. So the thing of it is that we're not just speaking truth, we're also writing truth, and they must be deaf, dumb, and blind. These courts must be deaf, dumb, and blind.
That's right.
You're right about that. But they're going to start.
Yeah, it's all right.
They're going to start. The people ain't having it, man. We already agreed. We ain't having this no more.
No, I think we're done.
But enjoy you watching the show nonetheless. Hey, you know. I'm glad you came on, Randy. Ricardo had vacation to go on, so he couldn't be here.
Yeah, he sent me pictures of him fishing.
Yeah, he's on vacation right now because he's not an obligor.
Yeah.
You know? He got lucky, man. His story's a good one, though.
Yeah.
Yours was too.
He's got a good case. I just hope that he doesn't
can't ever give up on him. Don't you give up on your kid, bro. Ever.
No. All right. I guess he says he's gonna end the video, so all right, man. I'll talk to you soon, brother. All right. You there?
Yeah.
All right.
Obsidian, are you all done for the night? I would assume so. Yep. All right. We will end the show. Have a great night, guys.
Our courts
God
are
bless.
contaminated with young, inexperienced caseworkers and polluted with bribes, high-priced bonuses for speedy adoption of terminated parents, and judges who don't practice law with the Constitution in their sights. This is a problem.
They take away the fathers, leaving just a mom and cubs. They know that with dad out the way, the better things will go. Breaking apart the family, destroying the American way. Our legacy is built upon our families of yesterday. Fuck CPS, fuck what they doing. Fuck CPS, they need to be ruined. It's all about the division of family services. You hear that the division, that's what they about. They prey upon the family, the ones that the dad's been kicked out. We can't stand for this abomination. This is the song that needs to play across our once great nation, making us aware of the problem. Stealing our kids, it's not mama drama. Stand up for those who are lost to them. We need to fight for the family, making America great again. CPS comes along with the mission to protect. The only thing they are doing is cashing in those checks, paid for by the souls of the children, diagnosed by a caseworker who is still a baby herself. They take away the fathers, leaving just the mom and cubs. They know that with dad out the way, the better things will go. Breaking apart the family, destroying the American way. Our legacy is built upon our families of yesterday. Fuck CPS, fuck what they doing. Fuck CPS, they need to be ruined. It's all about the division of family services. You hear that the division, that's what they about. They prey upon the family, the ones that the dad's been kicked out. We can't stand for this abomination. This is the song that needs to play across our once great nation, making us aware of the problem. Stealing our kids, it's not mama drama. Stand up for those who are lost to them. We need to fight for the family, making America great again.